What is your "this person has no idea how the real world works" moment? When I was in boot camp, some kids put his letter addressed to mom with no address attached. I was going to say that it's not that stupid for a very young kid to do that, but then I realized you said boot camp and not summer camp. A student working part-time at my laboratory at a university came into my office and asked, "So what all can I eat in the refrigerator?" I didn't know I was supposed to bring my own lunch. I looked at him, stunned, and replied, "Nothing. That food is what people brought for their own lunch, but you can use my Grubhub to order." He did not understand. It took 4 tries to get him to realize he can't just eat someone else's lunch. Same student. I walked into the lab room and told him I made a full pot of coffee in the office, and he could help himself. Him, a pot of coffee? What's that? He never used a coffee maker other than a Keurig before and didn't even know it was a thing. He was fired a month later for stealing chloroform. Well, that did not end the way I thought it would. At a national park, the park ranger says stay on the trails, there are bears in the area. One lady says, "Isn't that dangerous? Why aren't they in their cages?" "Ma'am, we're not a zoo." Reverse situation. At a zoo, a guy asks, "Where are the monkeys?" The cage is empty. The guide says they are probably inside the cave/enclosure, probably having sex, so they won't be out for some time. The guy asks, "Will they come out if we threw some peanuts?" The guide says, "Would you?" I'm laughing my butt off. Picture 2 people having sex and then stop when they hear an ice cream truck coming. 2 people come running out of the house naked. Ice cream truck driver facepalms, 3rd time this week. Employees at Old Faithful, both Park Service and concessionaire, are routinely asked to set off the geyser early. Yeah, we'll get right on that. My mom was a park ranger at Rocky for a while. Her faves: what time do you turn off the waterfalls? At what age do the deer become elk? Where do we go to meet Smokey the Bear? As if he were a Disney mascot character attraction. Edited, spelling. This is sitcom material. I'm already excited for what kinds of wacky misadventures Mari is going to get herself into next. Murdered. She's going to get murdered. When my roommate, who never once paid for rent or groceries or anything, turned down the only job offer they have ever gotten, in front of me, twice. They were so desperate they called him twice, offering good pay, during COVID, and he had the gall to say no in front of me. His excuse was, "No buttholes here, I'm sure there's something better." $20 an hour is garbage in this city. Listening to a faulty new car story when it turned out the woman, 42, was driving for 7 months with the handbrake on the whole time. A lot of times I drive like for 10 miles with the emergency brake on. That doesn't say a lot for me, but it really doesn't say a lot for the emergency brake. That's not an emergency brake, it's an emergency make the car smell funny lever. A dude, 18 in boot camp got a letter from home and I can see he is agitated. Being 22 and concerned for his well-being, I asked him if he wanted to talk about it. I'm thinking a Dear John letter or the mom and dad divorcing letter. He dead but told me that his younger brother got a Mercedes for his birthday and that he was pissed BC he only got a BMW. Can't remember what I said, but I knew boot camp was going to knock his dick in the dirt. It did. My boss told me about a friend of his, who told him as a life hack. She would get her bills in the mail, not pay them, and then wait a couple of months to pay. Then she would cry so the debt collectors would feel bad and waive the fees for not paying on time. That was her brilliant life hack. Why? When my girlfriend said to me that she was going to easily work 3 jobs at the same time. Edit: we were in high school at the time. Oh man, I did 3 jobs, kitchen jobs, for like a month and a half when I took half a year off college as I was a bit lost at the time. Man, it was effing brutal. Never again. The other day, my 18-year-old brother-in-law got married to his high school sweetheart in a parking garage so that they can live off campus at college together. Girlfriends, now wife, mother is an ordained minister. His parents, my in-laws, were very upset and he couldn't understand why because it's just a fake marriage for school. Oh no, sweet boy. You are married. I just laughed and laughed. I love him dearly. He is a dumbass. In his defense, they are going to be eligible for a ton of financial aid because of this. Laughing out loud, yeah, that's definitely a perk of young marriage. I got married at 19. I'm getting most of my school paid for in Pell Grants, whereas if I went off my parents' income I wouldn't get anything. I fall in that weird gray area where my parents can't really afford to pay for my tuition but make enough to prohibit me from getting grants. I'm not saying that there aren't hardships to young marriage. There is for sure. And I know the statistics against me. But I mean there are some benefits. When looking for somewhere to rent after university halls, one of my mates was annoyed because he didn't like the lounge in the house his parents bought him outright to live in. My mom was spontaneously in the city I live in and asked me to meet her for supper. I told her I was on the bus and it would take me 45 minutes to get to her, even though in a car it would be a 15-minute drive. She said, just tell the bus driver to bring you here now. She has no concept of how public transportation works. Yes, thank you all. Public, not pubic. I worked for a very sheltered and entitled mother as a nanny. Shortly after I got hired, she called me at 3 a.m. asking me to come in because the baby wouldn't stop crying. When I said no, she responded with, "But you're the nanny." And that was a constant thing. At one point she got sick of breastfeeding and asked if I could start nursing. All of this was very casual too. Like she wasn't really mean about it. I worked for a clueless couple who had no idea how to raise a kid. He wore the same outfit every day for a month until I gently suggested that he needs new clothes. His parents asked me, "Where can we get baby clothes?" This was slightly hilarious given that they lived above a Target and next to a baby boutique. I had to have the same conversation once the child was old enough for solid foods. I was asked, "Where can we get baby food?" I had to explain that most grocery stores carry a baby aisle, or that she can mash up her own fruits at home for the baby. This family decided that sour cream would be a great first food for their baby. I'll mention that this was a wealthy family who went on vacation at least 2 to 3 times a month. By far the weirdest thing they did was try and drop off grandma at daycare along with the baby. Mine is a coworker. He believes that anytime his ex does something with their daughter and he doesn't agree with it, he needs to call CPS. Ex has daughter sharing a room with older sister, time to call CPS. He calls late at night and kid is sleeping and ex won't wake her up, time to call CPS and caseworkers. Ex current husband won't give the coworker his pay stubs, time to call a caseworker. Dude has CPS and his caseworker on speed dial. The dude doesn't understand why CPS and his caseworker keep telling him that since the child is not abused and or neglected and his ex is doing everything the court has told her that she needs to do, there is nothing illegal happening. Dude is still trying to find ways to control the ex and what goes on in her house. Old roommate was only paying $25 on her credit cards every month, but was putting almost every purchase on them. I felt so bad explaining to her that she was now in credit card debt. A first-year college student of mine thought that assignment deadlines were guidelines. Nothing was handed in on time. She emailed me the night before her final exam to see if I'd take some of her late work. I told her hell no. She threatened to report me. I let her. She failed, got reprimanded and was eventually expelled due to plagiarism. She probably got away with it all through high school. I teach lower-level high school students, and I'm only allowed to fail a certain number of them, maybe 2%, before administration comes after me. If I have 10 students who decided to do literally nothing but sleep all semester, admin makes me give them one single assignment at the very end, and if they turn it back in, they don't even have to do well on it. I have to give them a D because of this. Teachers in my district will do anything to make sure students pass the class without getting to this last assignment nonsense. That includes accepting a lot of late work. It's gotten so ridiculous that the students now know that all their teachers will bend over backwards to pass them. It sucks. It's like free money in response to any kind of financing or borrowing: car financing, student loans, credit cards, home equity line of credit. 2 things immediately come to mind. First, being a young girl, I used to work with at Target. She was hired for the 6 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. shift, but she regularly showed up between 8 to 9 a.m. without any good explanation. After the third time or so, our supervisor asked her if she had something to do in the morning, such as getting kids ready for school, that required a later shift. If so, she could be moved to the 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. shift. The girl's response was, "No, I still want to leave at 2:30. I just don't want to get up that early." She was fired when she refused to acknowledge that you cannot make your own schedule. Second is one of my roommates. A 23-year-old who is quite literally unable to take care of herself in any capacity beyond ordering fast food. I once heard her yell at her mother because she was filling out a job application and got stuck on a section. Her mom was trying to help her finish, but she got frustrated and screamed, "Can't you just fill it out? I want to go play my games." Before you ask, no. There are no disabilities. She's just lazy, spoiled and incredibly stupid. What do you mean, there's a global bike shortage? Can't you just order more? What do you mean, that bike won't show up until August? Can't you just bump up the shipment date? No. We can't just order more. We can't just bump up the shipment date. If we could, we would. A fed-up bike shop employee. My cousin is 47 and a couple years ago a relative died and left him $10K. He'd always lived with my grandma and had a structured settlement of $400 a month from an accident he was in as a teenager. Into heavy drugs, never employed, bumming around living like a kid with an allowance. He told me that he wanted to get a car, an apartment and then wanted my advice of his to invest the rest of the $10K. Come on, man. They did a study and there's a lot of people who have winning the lottery as part of their retirement plan. I have dying before I retire as mine. Seems pretty solid. My son was 3 days away from when his credit card bill was due and needed to borrow money, which was fine. He expressed his relief that I gave him the loan, saying I was afraid they'd cut off the card and not let me buy groceries this week if I didn't pay the balance. In other words, he's never let the balance roll over, just as I taught him, but he has no clue that he can actually let the balance roll over or pay a portion of the bill, and he'll be charged the rate plus a fee. I think I'm not going to tell him about that part. Tell him nothing and he'll have an 800 by the time it matters. My brother is 26 years old and has had one job. He worked there for like 2 months. Our cousin helped him get hired. It was the easiest job in the world. A team of people drilled wells, agriculture, and my brother would come at night and watch the equipment. He had a new RV to sleep in. They let him watch TV, bring his dog, smoke, drink, eat whatever he wanted. The only thing he really had to do was be there. He wanted to go to dinner with his girlfriend and asked for the day off. His boss told him no because he was the only person they had to stay there at night. He told his boss to F off and quit on the spot. To this day, he doesn't work, pay bills, or do anything with his life. He smokes weed and plays old video games, like random racing games on PS2. Sad waste of a life in my opinion. You think your cousin could get me that job? I worked with a girl in her 20s who had her first ever official paycheck. She was beaming with excitement as she opened the envelope, smile drops and she says, "Wait, what are these lines?" She had no idea what taxes were. We're taxed to work, to simply live somewhere, to buy things, to sell things, to flush things. Welcome to poverty, young girl in a low-paying career. Who's this FICA bitch and why is she taking all my money? I have one that's kind of been woken up from this. My dad. He used to be the typical boomer, always thinking I was just being lazy and not doing things right. Until he got injured, and could no longer work in an industry he had 30+ years of experience and seniority in. It took him several months to get a new job of any kind, and was shocked when he realized that he couldn't just negotiate for higher pay. He was fired on the spot when he threatened to organize a strike, and was barred from the premises. When he had to move, it baffled him that he couldn't just give the landlord a few $100 and move in right away, but had to wait a week for his application to go through, and the landlord to do a background check. Probably my most satisfying one was when he finally decided to get into the industry I'm in. Truck driving. He learned very fast that it wasn't like it is in the movies from the 80s. Truckers don't now, nor ever have given a rat's butt about one another. Sure, some are nice to one another, but if it's a choice of you or them, don't hold your breath. Most big trucking companies in the US do not give a crap about you, or your family, and they're only concerned about your safety because it saves them money on lawsuits. After his third trucking job ended with him getting terminated, and is now living off my income, he stopped giving me crap about my problems, and is still job hunting. My dad has been self-employed since the 70s. He has never had to fill out a job application, interview for a position, etc. When I was looking for work, he'd call me lazy for applying online and that I should go talk to the manager. Well, the manager doesn't exist and everything is done online. After listening to my father rail against some fake political moral panic, I realized that he was incensed by something that happened on the show he watched the previous night, and not something that happened in reality. I realized then, I was 10 at the time, he was 40, that he couldn't tell the difference between fiction and nonfiction. He believed that it was illegal to say or show untrue things on television. In all the years that followed, he never learned better, though, once the internet came around, he insisted that was all fraudulent. So much so that if a news program had the same story both on television and online, the very existence of the online story made the television story untrue, and was violating the law, since it was illegal to say or show untrue things on television. In addition to this, I learned that he was functionally illiterate. One year for Christmas, I custom-made a board game for my girlfriend where the theme was about her going on as many holidays vacations as possible. The entire thing was full of references to her friends and family with a bunch on in jokes. Several people said I should try to mass produce and sell it. It's like, who the hell do you think's going to buy a game themed about some random person they've never heard of? I used to have a couple co-workers that called out regularly who complained about not having enough money. We get paid by the hour. If you don't work, you won't get paid. I got into an argument with my brother over universal health care. I realized it was pointless about halfway in because he didn't know what a premium was or what actuaries do. He actually thought everyone got charged the same amount for insurance. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe to be the first to know about Red Rabbit Reader's new videos. If you like our videos, please like them on YouTube and share them with your friends. We welcome your comments below. Press to start another of our videos.